The Death Bree. A long time ago, there was a woman who lived in Strathen whose cattle became ill. In fact, the whole village had the same problem. Large number of cows were lost each day. Dark times indeed for everyone, as they made their livelihood from cattle trading. They burned the dead cattle in fires and sprinkled them with holy water, but it had no effect. There seemed no way to stop the disease from spreading, so the woman decided to consult one of the wise folk. They told her, "This is no natural disease, it's the work of an evil power. The only way to break the spell is to give your cows a brie made from the juice of a skull taken from the grave at midnight." If you're wondering what a brie is, it's just a Scottish word for soup or broth. The idea of using a skull to make soup horrified the woman, so she ignored the advice at first. But as more and more of her cattle died, she didn't know what else to do. So she strengthened her nerves and asked a friend to come with her at night to an old abandoned churchyard. When she explained what she was going to do, her friend was appalled at the prospect of disturbing a grave, but they both knew that the village was doomed unless drastic action was taken. So when night descended, they set out on their grisly quest. When they reached the churchyard, the friend's nerves got the better of her and she froze at the gate. But the woman didn't give up so easily, as there was so much at stake. With coolness and determination, she entered the abandoned graveyard. Stopping at an ancient grave, she began to dig. After a while, she found what she was looking for and lifted up the skull that rested within. A voice came out from nowhere saying, "That's my head, leave it alone." The woman thought that it was best not to argue with ghostly voices, so she happily returned the skull, then lifted up another. "That's my father's head," bellowed the same voice. Still wanting to avoid an argument, the woman put down the skull and picked up another. "That's my grandfather's head," said the disembodied voice. By now the woman's patience was beginning to wear thin. She snapped back, "Well, even if it's your grandfather's head, you won't be getting it back till I'm done with it." The ghostly voice replied angrily, "What did you just say? How dare you? By the great oath, you'd better put my grandfather's head back." The woman quickly came to her senses. She realised that taking someone's head without their permission just wasn't good manners, so she decided to appeal to the spirit's better nature instead. She told him about the evil spell on the cattle and how the village was doomed unless she could make brie from a skull. The spirit himself was from these parts and perhaps distantly related to at least someone in the village, so he was a bit sympathetic to her plight. It was agreed that she could borrow grandfather's skull, but only if she returned it as soon as the brie was made, and she had to put the grave back in order before the cock crowed. If these conditions were not met, the heaviest of curses would lay upon her head. The woman thanked the ghostly voice and quickly hurried away with the skull. When she got to the church gate, she found a friend lying on the ground. She'd fainted when she heard the angry spirit, thinking the worst was going to happen. This was a bit of a nuisance, as the woman had to carry her unconscious friend to the nearest house so she could recover. But as soon as she was left in safe hands, the woman rushed home to complete her task. She took out her largest pot and, as respectfully as she could, she boiled the grandfather's head and made the brie. As soon as it was made, she rushed to return the skull and put the grave back the way she'd found it, just before dawn. She thanked its inhabitants, then returned home. You'll be glad to hear that the brie had the desired effect, and all the cattle speedily recovered. Legend says that until the last drop of the Bree was left, it continued to help cure those who needed it in the village for a very long time.